In this video, I'm going to be giving you my Mount Rushmore of UFC fighters. Stay tuned for more of that. Welcome to Republican Talks, everybody. I'm your host, Kenneth Glenn, and today is finally UFC 300. Can't wait to watch it. Can't wait to see what happens. I'm super excited. It's always great when the UFC has a pay-per-view every 100 pay-per-views. Roster is usually super stacked. The fights are great. I'm super excited for the show. And to celebrate, I'm going to be going over my Mount Rushmore of UFC fighters. If you're wondering why I'm doing UFC fighters this month, I had a poll earlier this month. UFC fighter concept 1. You guys wanted to see UFC fighter Mount Rushmore, so we're going to be going over that in this video. Before we get into this, I'm going to make some ground rules like I did in my last video. In order to be in the UFC fighter Mount Rushmore, you have to be an actual UFC fighter. There are many great fighters that never made it to the UFC. For example, Fedor Emelianenko is one of them that comes to mind. They fight in different organizations, but they're still great. If you want me to make a list of fighters who were never in the UFC, but who I think would have done really well in the UFC, I could do that. Just comment down below, let me know. Maybe I'll make a poll. And if you guys want to see something like that, I can do that. So without further ado, let's get to the first person on my Mount Rushmore. And boy, oh boy, have I struggled with this one. On paper, it looks so easy, but I don't know. With my 1 and 2 spot, I've just been kind of fighting with it recently. I think I have to go with Jon Jones at number 1, the best of all time. He dominated. He beat everybody. He fought everybody. And he's just super great. And he's still really, really great. Everyone doubted that he'd beat Ciryl Gane. And he dominated. Dude, Jon Jones is so good. I was watching that pay-per-view live, right? My tablet buffered for like 30 seconds, and then the fight was over. And when my tablet stopped buffering, the fight was already over. It's like the fight starts, entered, and then the ref says, like, fight, and then my tablet buffers. And then when it stops buffering, the fight's over. And I'm like, come on, dude. Which is just insane that Jon Jones is still dishing out punishment to these guys. Jon Jones has had a pretty troubling career. And a lot of people think that that has something that goes against his GOAT case. But I actually think it improves his GOAT case even more. Because he's had such a amazing career with all of those problems on top of that, which is just, it's crazy to me that you can have a career so great after going through all the crap he went through. And I know people are going to bring up the PED accusations and the PED scandals and whatever. PEDs don't make you a better fighter. I'm just saying, dude. A PED is not going to help you out-wrestle a Olympian wrestler when he fought Cormier. He out-wrestled him, and a PED is not going to help you with that. I'm just saying. So, Jon Jones, number 1 on my list. Greatest UFC fighter of all time. I don't think there will ever be a UFC fighter that will ever top him. He is just built different. His frame is perfect, too, for the sport. He's super tall, super lanky, and he's just really good. All right, moving on to number 2 on my list. Now, number 2 was never even on my list originally when I first made the concept for this video like a year ago. Like, this video has been planned for a very long time. This guy is Demetrious Johnson. Now, Demetrious Johnson, who I always thought was an overrated MMA fighter, because in my mind, like when I was watching him and stuff, I'm like, dude, he's fighting a bunch of nobodies. Like, I don't even know who these guys are. But now that I look back, I'm like, no wonder why we don't know who these guys are, because they never won, because DJ is just so dominant. Like, is it Demetrius Johnson's fault that he's just so dominant that these guys are just nobodies because of how much better he is? I don't know, man. And just when I mean he dominated, he like really dominated. Think about any sports athlete who you think dominated a sport, and Demetrius Johnson's probably dominated it more than him. I imagine you're thinking of like Michael Jordan. He went undefeated in the finals. Maybe you're thinking Tom Brady, who won 7 Super Bowls. If I think of those guys, right? Or maybe you are thinking like Usain Bolt or Michael Phelps. Maybe you're thinking one of those guys who dominated a sport. Demetrius Johnson dominated a sport way more than all of those guys. Okay, we're talking 11, I think it's 11 straight title defenses, like back to back to back to back. He defended his title 11 times. For those of you who don't know, Khabib, who is regarded as one of the best MMA fighters of all time, and I call him his little brother. It's not just a guy he trains with, Islam Makhachev. Both of those guys only have 7 put together. Demetrius Johnson has double the amount of title defenses as a guy who's regarded as the GOAT and a guy who's just been dominating the UFC currently. And that's just insane. His domination is just so unmatched. And another thing that's crazy is that he's a small guy, right? Demetrius Johnson. He could probably out-wrestle a lot of the bigger guys. So he was just in a jiu-jitsu tournament recently. But remember, mind you, these are all jiu-jitsu guys who are the same belt level as DJ, right? And DJ dominated that tournament. I saw the clip of how he beat this 248-pound guy, and he beat him, dude. Dude had no chance. The dude couldn't do anything. Demetrius Johnson literally did whatever he wanted to him. So that is why Demetrius Johnson gets number 2 on my Mount Rushmore of UFC fighters. Number 3 on my list is a simple one. Everyone knows this one, GSP. I'm not going to spend too much time on him because everyone pretty much already knows his go case. He's the best all-around fighter of all time. He could do it all. He did it all. He could fight. He can strike. He can wrestle. He can grapple. He can literally do it all. He's super flashy, super entertaining to watch. And in my opinion, he's in the perfect weight class too. Like, he's not too heavy where it's kind of boring to watch him fight. But he's also not too small either. He's the perfect balance. GSP is one of the best fighters of all time. And, he doesn't have as many title defenses. I think he only has 10 title defenses or something like that. And he did lose twice. He lost twice. He avenged both losses. Man, though. Just GSP is such a good fighter, man. I just wish to God there was some way to have GSP come to the modern era and fight these new guys as well. Dude, that'd be so great. Imagine GSP versus Khabib or GSP versus Usman, and these fights would be insane. But sadly, there's no way to do that. But just didn't want to spend too much time on him because it's a pretty obvious pick. That's why GSP is on my list at number 3. Now, here is where I hit a fork in the road, right? There's 2 fighters that I'm going to mention here. One of them is Anderson Silva, and one of them is Conor McGregor. I know, this is... Just hear me out. I don't know which one to put... I didn't know which one to put on the list. I have my decision already picked. I didn't know which one to put on the list. Anderson Silva is an amazing fighter. He has insane head movement. Sometimes the head movement gets him in a lot of trouble sometimes. But he's a really great fighter. Dominated the UFC. I think he also has 11 title defenses or something like that. Or he has 10, I think. He has 10 title defenses. which are also back-to-back, which is just crazy to me that he's able to hold the belt for so long. And he beat some bad dudes, too. He beat Sonnen. He beat a few other guys. But, dude, Anderson Silva was so good. He was such a good fighter. But then we move over to Conor. And my reason for putting Conor on this list is if you were to look up the top 10 most sold pay-per-views of all time, Conor's like 8 of the 10. And the other 2 that aren't Conor are Brock Lesnar. So it's like, I feel like that's a little go-worthy in my opinion. And, I mean, Conor's no slouch either. Conor can fight. Conor knows what he's doing. In recent years, he's kind of fallen off because it's no longer a priority in his life, as we can all tell. But Conor's a great fighter. When he was in his prime, he was great. And he can sell a pay-per-view like crazy. And the reason why I'm comparing him to Anderson Silva, as you might be wondering, is that Anderson Silva had a rough end of his career. I think Anderson Silva ended his career with like 6 losses in a row, which is just not great. So, with all this being said, who am I putting on the list? I'm putting Anderson Silva on the list. What do you think? I'm actually going to put Conor over Anderson Silva? Are you ridiculous, dude? I mean, Conor's great. He held the 2 titles. He held 2 different titles in 2 different weight classes, which is just crazy. And he went into the boxing field and stuff like that. But Anderson Silva is just different, man. When maybe it's just nostalgia, maybe it's just like I watched Silva as a kid, so it stuck with me more. And I played all the UFC games as a kid, and Anderson Silva's... Dude, Anderson Silva is just that guy. Anderson Silva is insane. And he can do it all as well. Conor's kind of... Conor's good at some things, but he's really bad at like wrestling. So I feel like Silva's the best overall out of the 2. So that is why I'm putting Anderson Silva on the list as well. So anyways, what did you guys think? Did you guys like my list? What is your list? Comment down below. And if you guys want to see me rank fighters that never were in the UFC, you want to see where I rank those kind of people, write that down in the comments down below, and I'll make that video as soon as I can. So anyways, hope those of you guys please comment, subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.